You're sitting across from a baby. Maybe at a restaurant. Maybe at a family dinner. Maybe you're the one holding them, and you didn't exactly volunteer for this. And they're just looking at you. Not glancing. Not peeking. Looking. The kind of sustained, unblinking, penetrating eye contact that would be deeply uncomfortable if an adult did it. The kind that makes you laugh nervously and look away first. The baby does not look away. You lost a staring contest to someone who can't tie their shoes. Who doesn't have shoes. Who has never seen shoes. Most people find this funny and move on. But a small group of scientists found it so strange, so behaviorally specific, so evolutionarily deliberate, that they spent 20 years and millions in research funding trying to explain it. What they found didn't just answer the question. It cracked open something much bigger. Something about how human minds are built, how consciousness gets assembled, and why the first year of life shapes everything that follows in ways we are only beginning to measure. Start with the theory everyone believes. Babies stare because they can't see very well. Faces are high contrast, close range, visually interesting. You're basically the most stimulating thing in the room to a creature with blurry vision. Clean. Simple. Makes sense. Except it falls apart the moment you test it. Yes, newborns have a visual range of about 8 to 12 inches. Roughly the distance from your elbow to your face when you're cradling them. Convenient, that. But by 3 months, that limitation is largely gone. A 3-month-old can see across a room. They can see the window, the ceiling fan, the family dog doing something weird in the corner. They have options. They still pick your face. Every time. Without hesitation. That is not a vision limitation. That is a decision. And the fact that a 3-month-old is making it, consistently, deliberately, every single waking hour, is what sent researchers scrambling for a better explanation. In 2017, a team at Cambridge decided to look at both brains at once. Not just the babies. Both. Using a technology called functional near-infrared spectroscopy, they measured real-time neural activity in infants and adults simultaneously during face-to-face interaction. They weren't studying behavior. They were watching electricity move through living tissue in 2 separate skulls at the same moment. What they were looking for was whether the brains were doing anything related to each other. What they found nobody had predicted. When a baby locks eyes with you, their brainwaves don't just respond to yours. They begin to mirror them. Same frequencies. Same rhythms. 2 separate brains, one of them barely months old, firing in patterns so coordinated that the researchers initially questioned their equipment. They ran controls. Adult looks away, no synchronization. Neutral expression, partial. But mutual gaze, real eye contact, produced the strongest neural coupling ever recorded between individuals of different ages. Your baby is not just looking at your face. They are plugging their developing brain directly into yours, using your neural activity as a live blueprint. Your brain is the scaffolding their brain is building itself against. That stare is not attention. It is construction. But here's the detail that changes everything. Babies don't stare at everyone the same way. Harvard Medical School ran a simple test. They showed 3-month-olds 2 faces side by side. A stranger and their primary caregiver. The babies looked longer at the stranger. Which seems wrong. Until you understand the mechanism behind it. Developmental psychologists call it the violation of expectation response. Infants allocate visual attention based on unresolved complexity. The stranger is an open file. Unprocessed. Still being figured out. But the caregiver's face? By 3 months a baby has spent more hours studying that face than a medical student spends studying anatomy. Every microexpression. Every shift in tone. Every subtle tightening around the eyes before something bad happens. They have built an internal model so detailed and so precise that when they look at you, they're not observing anymore. They're reading. By 5 months, researchers at the University of Washington confirmed what parents had suspected but couldn't prove. Babies can tell the difference between a real smile and a performed one. Not eventually. At 5 months. They are detecting the authenticity of your emotional state before they can hold their own head up. By 6 months, it goes further. They're watching your face to decide how to feel about the world. Developmental psychologists call it social referencing. You look alarmed, they freeze. You look curious, they reach. You look calm, they explore. Your face is their emotional weather system. Every stare is a forecast check. Now I need to tell you about the experiment that disturbed an entire field. 1975, Harvard. Dr. Edward Tronick designs something deceptively simple. A mother plays normally with her infant. Laughing, responding, mirroring expressions, doing the thousand small things parents do without thinking. Baby is engaged. Happy. Locked in. Then on a signal, the mother goes blank. Not sad. Not angry. Blank. Eyes open. Face still. No response to anything the baby does. Present in body, absent in every other way. What follows became one of the most replicated, most analyzed, most cited sequences in the history of developmental psychology. The baby notices immediately. Within seconds. They try the things that always work. Big smiles. Reaching. Vocalizing. Pointing. The whole toolkit. Nothing. They escalate. Bigger gestures. More urgent sounds. Direct reaching toward her face. Still nothing. Within 90 seconds, something shifts. Cortisol floods the system. Heart rate climbs. Some babies cry. Some go quiet in a way that's worse than crying, pulling inward, shutting down, going as blank as their mother. When she re-engages, they recover. But not instantly. The body remembers. What Tronick concluded after running this study for 2 decades is this. Infants are not passive recipients of care. They are active participants in a two-way biological conversation. And when that conversation goes silent, even briefly, even artificially, the developing nervous system registers it as a threat at a cellular level. The stare is not adoration. It is dialogue. And your baby needs you to be on the other end of the line. Here's the part that rarely leaves academic journals. MIT's Brain and Cognitive Sciences department spent years measuring what all this face-to-face interaction actually builds inside the infant brain, past emotional attunement, past bonding, down to the structural level. Their finding is difficult to overstate. Babies who receive consistent, responsive, contingent face-to-face interaction in the first 6 months, meaning someone notices their cues and actually responds to them, show significantly greater development in the prefrontal cortex. The prefrontal cortex, the region responsible for planning, self-regulation, decision-making, impulse control, and complex social behavior. The seat of everything we associate with functional adult humanity. Its foundation is being laid right now. In these moments. Through this stare. Every time you hold their gaze, you are pouring concrete. Every time you mirror their expression, you are laying wire. Every time you respond to what you see in those eyes instead of looking at your phone, you are building the hardware that will run this person's mind for the next 80 years. The most significant construction project in human development requires nothing more than your face, their face, and your full attention. There is a warning. If you know a baby who doesn't do this, who doesn't seek your face, who looks past you rather than at you, who stays unmoved when you enter or leave the room, don't file it under personality. Don't call it an independent baby. Reduced or absent gaze behavior in infancy is one of the earliest measurable signals of atypical social development in clinical research. Not a verdict. Not a diagnosis. A signal. The reason early identification matters so urgently is physics. The brain's plasticity in the first 2 years of life is a window that closes. Intervention at 6 months reaches a brain that can still reorganize itself at a cellular level. Intervention at 2 years reaches a brain that has already locked in a substantial amount of its architecture. If something feels off to you, that instinct is data. You have been studying this specific face longer and more carefully than anyone on earth. Trust what you see. So the next time a baby finds you from across the room and just holds your gaze, longer than feels normal, longer than feels comfortable, longer than any adult would dare. You know what's happening now. Their brain is reaching for yours. They are using your face to learn how emotions work, how the world works, how to figure out what is safe and what isn't, how to eventually become a person capable of doing all of this for someone else. Evolution spent hundreds of thousands of years designing those eyes. Round, large, impossible to ignore. Not for cuteness. For capture. They need to catch you. And you need to let them. The only correct response to a baby's stare is to stare back. If this changed how you see the babies in your life, share it with someone who's holding one right now. And tell me in the comments, has a baby ever held your gaze so long it actually unsettled you? Because now you know exactly what they were doing. And next time, why babies laugh at things that aren't there. Staring into empty corners. Cracking up at blank walls at 3 a.m. Neuroscience has a theory. See you on the next one.